Yeah, I really had to fight for the role. She's written to be a 37-year-old Oxycontin-addicted mother living in Charlestown, Boston. So,
Ben Affleck drops bombshell about Blake Lively's role in his divorce. Have you ever wondered why Ben Affleck stayed quiet about his divorce from Jennifer Garner for so long, only to drop a bombshell now? After years of whispers and tabloid guesses, he's finally pointing the finger, and it's aimed straight at Blake Lively. Yep, the actress, known for Gossip Girl and A Picture-Perfect Life with Ryan Reynolds, allegedly tore through Ben's marriage like a hurricane during the filming of The Town. But what really happened behind the scenes, and why is Ben spilling the tea today? Buckle up, because this Hollywood saga is wilder than you think.
It was very different than anything I had ever done, and I was 21. I'm sure everybody that read it connected to it emotionally because it was...
Let's rewind to 2010. Ben Affleck was deep into The Town, a raw, Boston-set heist thriller where he wasn't just the star, he was calling the shots as director too. Enter Blake Lively, a 21-year-old fresh off Gossip Girl's glitzy drama, eyeing the role of Christa Coughlin. Now, this wasn't some glamorous part tailor-made for her. Christa was scripted as a 37-year-old single mom, hardened by life in Charlestown, hooked on Oxy, entangled in a messy love story. Blake didn't fit the mold. Producers saw her as too young, too green, too polished. But she wasn't taking no for an answer. She hustled hard, auditioning multiple times, even jumping on a train from New York to Boston for a fleeting 10-minute read with Ben, then racing back the same day. That's 10 hours of travel for a shot she wasn't even guaranteed. Why the desperation?
Written so beautifully, and you could understand why she made the terrible decisions that she makes, the pain that she feels, and...
Blake herself once spilled some tea on it in an old interview, saying, "I was so wrong for it. They didn't want to see me. She's this broken, complex woman, and I just thought, selfishly, I have to play her. I could feel her pain, her terrible choices, and I wanted it bad." She fought tooth and nail, and Ben noticed. Against the producer's instincts, he didn't just greenlight her. He rewrote the script, shaving years off Christa's age to make it work. Picture this: an established actor-director, already juggling a high-stakes project, sticking his neck out for a relatively untested actress. Risky move, right? Insiders say it wasn't just talent he saw in that audition room. Their chemistry hit like a freight train from day one. Eyes locked, vibes buzzing, the kind of spark that makes you wonder what's really going on. One crew member later dished, you could tell something clicked the second she walked in. Ben was sold, and it wasn't all about her line delivery.
You know, I just thought I really want to, selfishly, I really want to portray this woman. Yeah. And so I fought really hard to get an audition.
And here's the kicker. Blake wasn't new to chasing big break. She'd already turned heads snagging Gossip Girl at 19, outshining a crowded field. But The Town was different. A gritty leap from teen soap stardom, a chance to prove she could hang with heavyweights like Ben. Was it pure ambition driving her? Or did she sense an opening to get closer to the man behind the camera? Whatever it was, Ben's push to cast her set off a chain reaction nobody saw coming. Not the producers, not his team, and definitely not Jennifer Garner, who was about to watch her world tilt. The stage was set, and Blake had her foot in the door. What happened next would blow it wide open.
Because I was so wrong for it, they didn't want to see me. I took a train out there. I auditioned with him for 10 minutes and then took a train right back. It was like 10 hours worth of travel for 10 minutes.
Filming kicked off in Boston, and the set of The Town turned into a pressure cooker fast. Ben Affleck and Blake Lively weren't just co-stars, they were a live wire. Crew members picked up on it instantly, trading side-eyes as the two clicked in a way that felt way beyond method acting. One grip later spilled, it was like watching a match strike. Sudden, hot, and impossible to ignore. At one point, we're setting up a shot and they're off in a corner, laughing, heads close, like the rest of us didn't exist. Another insider went further. Their chemistry was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. Someone joked they needed a room, and nobody disagreed. This wasn't subtle flirting. It was blatant, and it hung over every take.
But when I finished my audition, he said, "What part of Boston are you from?" Best saying you could ever say to me. I didn't even know parts of Boston, so I didn't even know what to...
Ben was 38, a dad of 3, with his 5th wedding anniversary to Jennifer Garner just months away. On paper, he and Jen were Hollywood's golden couple. Stable, grounded, the kind of pair you'd bet on. But behind closed doors, things were fraying. Sources say Ben felt stuck, restless, like the spark at home had dulled to a flicker. Then Blake rolled in. 21, ambitious, all wide-eyed energy, and flipped a switch. She had this way about her, hanging on his every word, laughing at his dry humor, asking questions about directing like he was some cinematic god. Ben ate it up. He'd later confessed to a friend that Blake made him feel seen, alive, like the most important guy in the room, something he hadn't felt with Jen in a while. That's a dangerous high for a man already teetering.
Makeup, but then after that, I had to read with him again because it was still a stretch, you know. Yeah. It's a 21-year-old girl and they're reading for it.
Jennifer wasn't clueless. She'd been around Ben's world long enough to spot trouble brewing. Early into shooting, she started showing up on set, sometimes with their daughters Violet and Serafina in tow, sometimes solo, playing the supportive wife card. But it wasn't just cheerleading. She'd linger, watching Ben and Blake run scenes, her smile tight as she clocked how they moved around each other. One day, she caught them rehearsing a heated moment. Christa and Doug tangled in a messy, desperate vibe, and it wasn't the script that got her. It was how Ben's hand lingered on Blake's arm a beat too long, how Blake's eyes flicked up to meet his with something unspoken. A source close to Jen said she'd stand there, arms crossed, trying to act casual, but you could see the wheels turning. She knew.
But he did change it and adapt it, make it a little younger so that I could play this part. And when I auditioned the second time, I read with him and a few other actors, and it was an exhausting process.
The whispers didn't help. Word spread among the crew, Ben tweaking scenes to give Blake more screen time, late-night script talks that stretched past midnight, a vibe that felt less like collaboration and more like a slow burn. Jennifer's visits got more frequent, but so did her unease. She'd ask Ben how it was going, and he'd dodge, muttering about tight schedules or tough shots. Friends say she'd vent privately. He's different. It's not just work. He's distracted, and it's her. The gut punch wasn't proof yet, just a feeling, sharp and growing. But what she saw on that set was enough to light a fuse, and it was about to blow.
Let me just say, that was a tough show to film, and I didn't end up actually filming all of the episodes I was supposed to.
Things hit a boiling point when Jennifer Garner couldn't ignore the red flags anymore. It wasn't just a hunch now. It was staring her in the face. One night, Ben left his phone on the kitchen counter, screen lighting up with a string of texts. Jennifer, maybe out of instinct, maybe exhaustion, glanced over. Blake's name popped up, not once, but over and over. The messages weren't about camera angles or line readings. One reportedly said, "Can't stop thinking about today," with a winking emoji tacked on. Another, "You're killing me with that look." Innocent? Hardly. Jennifer's stomach dropped. She'd been brushing off the set visits, the weird vibes, telling herself it was all in her head. But this was a gut punch she couldn't dodge.
Whose love interest were you?
I was Blake Lively's love interest.
You were?
She didn't wait long to confront him. Sources say it went down late, after the kids were asleep. Jennifer pacing their LA home, voice low but shaking. "What's going on with you and Blake?" she demanded. Ben played it cool, leaning on his go-to defense. "It's just work, Jen. We're getting into character. Nothing's up." He swore it was professional, that she was overreacting, but his eyes didn't meet hers, and that dodge only made it worse. Jennifer wasn't some naive rookie. She'd been with Ben for years, knew his tells. The way he fidgeted, the clipped answers, it screamed guilt. A friend later said she wanted to believe him, but every word felt like a lie. She was breaking inside, and he wouldn't even look at her straight.
Okay, well then...
Sounds like she was the problem.
It sure does, Chelsea.
The phone wasn't the end of it. Jennifer doubled down, digging for proof. She'd call Ben during filming, fishing for updates, only to get rushed replies in the middle of a take. "Can't talk." Click. Once, she caught him laughing mid-call, Blake's voice faint in the background, and he hung up fast. Her paranoia spiked. Then came the day she snapped. She rolled up to the set unannounced. No kids this time, just a raw need to see it for herself. She found Ben and Blake tucked in a corner, away from the crew, heads bent close in a hushed exchange. Whatever they were saying stopped dead when Blake's eyes flicked up and spotted Jen. The air turned thick. Ben froze, Blake stepped back, and Jennifer just stood there, heart hammering. No one spoke. A crew guy nearby swore he saw Jen's hands tremble before she turned and bolted, tears spilling as she hit the parking lot.
She's a fabulous, as you can see, she's a gorgeous young woman.
Friends say that moment shattered her. She'd been fighting to glue their family together, cooking dinners, juggling school runs, pretending for the kids, while Ben slipped away. At home, she'd vent to her inner circle. He's obsessed with her. Every other word's Blake. Her brilliant takes. Her unique perspective. It's like, I don't exist. The distance wasn't just physical. Ben stayed late on set, came home quiet, lost in his head. Jennifer tried tougher love once, cornering him after a long shoot. Are you even here anymore? He mumbled something about stress, but she saw it. He was gone, hooked on whatever Blake was feeding him. A pal recalled she'd cry alone at night, wondering how to save it, but deep down, she knew she was losing him. The heartbreak wasn't loud. It was a slow bleed, and that unannounced visit was the knife twist she couldn't unfeel. Then came the press tour for the town, and oh boy, did it turn into a full-on circus. Ben Affleck and Blake Lively didn't just step into the spotlight, they practically set it ablaze. The chemistry that simmered on set, it exploded in public. At junkets and premieres, they were a two-person show, trading sly glances, finishing each other's sentences, cracking inside jokes that left reporters scrambling to keep up. One interviewer later said, "You'd ask Ben about directing and he'd pivot to Blake's amazing instincts mid-sentence. Then she'd giggle, touch his arm, and suddenly it's like you're third-wheeling a date." The vibe was so blatant that clips hit YouTube with titles like Ben and Blake flirting for 5 minutes straight. Fans ate it up. But the tabloids? They went feral. Photos flooded the mags. Ben and Blake shoulder to shoulder on red carpets, her leaning in close at an LA screening, him grinning wider than he had in years. One shot caught them at a press dinner, heads bent over a shared phone, laughing like nobody else existed. The headlines screamed affair rumors. Ben ditches Jen for Blake, and trouble in Affleck paradise. Publicists tried to spin it. They're just promoting the movie. But the body language told a different story. A body language expert even chimed in for Us Weekly, pointing out Ben's lingering eye contact and Blake's playful mirroring. Meanwhile, Jennifer Garner was stuck at home, flipping through these glossy betrayals, her brave smile cracking with every news spread. The timing couldn't have been worse or weirder. Right as the tour hit its peak, Blake dropped a bombshell of her own. She split with Penn Badgley, her Gossip Girl boyfriend of 3 years. The breakup came out of nowhere. Insiders swore they'd been solid, spotted cozy just weeks before. Then, poof, Penn was out, and Blake was dodging questions about it while glowing next to Ben. Jennifer didn't buy the coincidence. A friend said, "Jen saw the news and just shook her head. She told me, that's not random. It's her making space." Gossip blogs ran wild. Had Blake ditched Penn for Ben? Was this a calculated move? No proof, but the optics were brutal, and Jen felt every sting. Blake didn't help her case. At one junket, a reporter asked about working with Ben, and she gushed, "He's incredible. So smart, so generous. I learned more from him than anyone." Ben jumped in, smirking, "She's being modest. She brought this raw energy I couldn't get enough of." The room buzzed, and Twitter lit up with fans screaming, "Affair alert!" Another clip went viral, Blake teasing Ben about his Boston accent, him firing back with a flirty, "You're just jealous you can't pull it off." It was cute, too cute, and it fueled the fire. Jennifer tried keeping it together, showing up to a charity event solo with a forced grin, but pals say she was crumbling. She'd watch those interviews and feel sick, one revealed. Ben looked happier with Blake than he'd been with her in forever. The fallout wasn't just personal. It shifted the narrative. Ben, usually stiff in press, came alive with Blake, cracking jokes and shedding that brooding vibe. Critics noticed, too. Variety called their chemistry the film's secret weapon. But off-screen, it was a wrecking ball. Jennifer's absence from the tour spoke volumes. She didn't join Ben for a single event, leaving him and Blake to dominate the spotlight. By the time the tour wrapped, the damage was public and permanent. Jen was left holding a fracturing marriage while Blake basked in the glow of her breakout and Ben's attention. But that wasn't the end of the mess. What came next would twist the knife even deeper. Here's where it gets twisted. Ben Affleck's got a playbook, and he's been running it for years. Flashback to 2003, he's engaged to Jennifer Lopez, the ultimate power couple moment. She's rocking that $2,500,000 pink diamond, they're dubbed Bennifer, and the world's obsessed. Then he signs on for Daredevil, playing the blind superhero opposite Jennifer Garner's Elektra. Sparks didn't just just fly, they torched everything. On set, Ben and Jen clicked hard, long talks between takes, a vibe that felt more real than rehearsed. By early 2004, he'd called off the J.Lo wedding, literally days before it was set to go down, and within months, he was dating Garner. The timeline was so tight it raised eyebrows. People ran a piece quoting a Lopez pal. She was blindsided. 1 minute they're planning a life, the next he's gone. Sound familiar? Fast forward to 2010, and Ben's at it again with Blake Lively on the town. Same script, different co-star. Married, restless, then bam. New leading lady, new infatuation. A friend of Ben's once put it bluntly, he doesn't let a wife stop him from finding his next wife. It's like he can't help it. The irony hit Jennifer Garner like a freight train. She'd been the other woman who won back then, snagging Ben from J.Lo's grip, building a family with him. Now she was on the flip side, watching Blake pull the same move. A source close to Jen said she'd joke darkly about it. Guess what goes around comes around. But it wasn't funny. It was tearing her apart. The parallel wasn't lost on anyone, least of all Ben. He even owned up to it. Sort of. In a late-night chat with a buddy, liquored up after a rough day, Ben reportedly mused, "I've got a type, don't I? Co-stars, chemistry, chaos, it's my thing." He laughed it off, but the self-awareness didn't stop the wreckage. With Garner, it started subtle. Daredevil was a flop, but their bond wasn't. They married in 2005, had Violet by year's end, and built that wholesome image. Yet by the town, that stability was a ghost. Blake wasn't just a fling, she was a mirror of how Ben operates. Falling hard on set, letting it bleed into his life, consequences be damned. An industry insider quipped, "Ben's a serial co-star crusher." Jen knew it, she lived it, but seeing it play out again was a whole new hell. The Lopez-Garner switch had stung J.Lo publicly. Tabloids feasted on her heartbreak, her scrapped wedding plans, that iconic ring hitting the vault. Now Garner was the one nursing the wounds, only quieter. She didn't blast Ben in interviews or cry to the press like Lopez once did. Instead, she internalized it, wrestling with the déjà vu. A pal recalled, she'd say, "I should have seen this coming. He did it to her, why not me?" It wasn't just Blake, it was realizing Ben's wired this way. The pattern was brutal. Meet on set, get swept up, leave a trail of fallout. Lopez moved on to Mark Anthony. Garner faced a slower bleed, years of strain before the 2018 divorce. Blake was just the latest chapter in Ben's co-star curse, and Jen was left wondering if she'd ever been the exception, or just another stop on his rinse-repeat cycle. Years later, the fallout lingered. In 2014, Ben had a shot at a big movie with Ryan Reynolds, but Jennifer put her foot down. No way. Why? Because Blake was married to Ryan by then, and Jennifer couldn't stomach facing her again. Sources say she'd argue herself hoarse with Ben over it, and he finally backed off, a quiet nod to the pain he'd caused. That ban wasn't just petty, it was a neon sign that whatever went down with Blake left scars deep enough to derail a career move. And it's not like Jennifer's overreacting when you see what happened next. Blake's got her own pattern. After The Town, she landed Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds, while he was still married to Scarlett Johansson. Crew whispers say they got real close, ducking into hotels between takes. Scarlett skipped the premiere, and a month later her marriage was toast. Soon after, Ryan and Blake were Hollywood's golden couple. Sound familiar? Add in tales from Gossip Girl, Armie Hammer dodging questions about her diva antics, Leighton Meester avoiding her like the plague, a stand-in calling her horrendous, and Blake's sweetheart mask starts slipping. Seems she's got a knack for charming co-stars and leaving wreckage behind. So why's Ben talking now? His confession drops as Blake's tangled in a lawsuit with Justin Baldoni over It Ends With Us, with claims of her controlling behavior making waves. Maybe Ben saw a chance to set the record straight or settle a score. Jennifer Garner's thriving with John Miller and her kids, steering clear of Blake at every turn, like when she worked with Ryan on the Adam Project, but skipped joint press. Blake's rep, though, it's taking a hit. Ben's revelation paints her as the spark that lit his marriage's collapse. And with her past laid bare, viewers are left wondering, who's the real villain here? Is Ben owning his mess, or is Blake's charm finally catching up to her? This drama's far from over, and Hollywood's watching. What's your take?